What's up, you guys? It's time.
It is time.
The time has come. I'm going to tell the story of the liar. This is going to be a short episode. It's a surprise episode. It's not being released, obviously, on our schedule.
Surprise!
Surprise, Shaddy! But honestly, I just wanted to get it over with. I've mentioned it a million times and keep saying that I'm going to tell the story, and here I am telling the story. So let's get into it so I never have to talk about it again.
You only have to share what you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, there will be some details left out for sure. But just going to dive in.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'm here for moral support in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, and if I miss any details that are
Yeah.
important. Okay, the story starts on Hinge. I matched with the liar on Hinge. And wasn't really that excited about him. Like, I think at the time I was just kind of dating to date. I wasn't really into anyone. I was just doing my own thing. And then we like FaceTimed a couple times before we ever met. I like to do that because I hate going on a first date and getting there and being like, wow, we have zero chemistry. There's no good banter, like nothing.
I never do that.
Yeah, well,
I always show up and hope for the best.
yeah. I don't do it every time, but if I'm like pretty unsure about the guy, then I will. And I was pretty unsure about the liar, so we FaceTimed. It was fine. And then we had our first date, which I already talked about. Best first date of my life. It was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
We talked
Good
about
start.
Yeah. On our first date, he told me that he had only been single for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That he was
Red
like
flag.
totally over the whole situation with his ex. I even asked because I was like, that's like kind of crazy.
Did he tell you how long he was with his ex?
2 years.
He said that on the first date?
Mhm.
Okay.
And it was a very serious relationship. There were some things that happened in that relationship that I'm not going to share, but it was very serious. Like, he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life with this girl. I don't think I knew that at the time, or else I would have been like 5 weeks is like,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think 5 weeks heals things like that.
No. And he also did nothing. I'm pretty sure I asked him, like, what have you done to, like, move on? Like, have you gone to therapy? Have you talked to someone? Have you, like, what have you done? I actually don't know if I asked that or not. But anyways, it was the best first date ever. After that first date, he texted me saying that it was, like, the most fun conversation having best first date he's ever been on. And I was like, oh my God, I feel the same way. Like, this is crazy. Did we just like fall in love? Just kidding.
You never know. It could happen.
I mean, it was like sparks were flying. There was
Yeah.
instant chemistry. I was instantly comfortable around this man. And then we were supposed to hang out like a week later or something. I actually had a date with a different guy a couple nights later. And I told him about it because I normally wouldn't. But the way that we connected like that, I was like, I feel like I should tell him.
I remember you asking me if you should tell him.
Yeah.
And I feel like I remember being like, I don't think it matters in the whole like grand scheme of things because you just met this man.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you feel that way, then yeah, why not? Like, what's the harm in also letting him know?
I normally would not do that. But just the way it was so... Like, you could just tell that we really liked each other, the way the first date was, the way we were texting after. And so I already was at the point where, like, I didn't want to date anyone else. I liked him that much. And he went out of his way to tell me on our first date that he had not been on any other dates since he and his girlfriend broke up. And I was his first. And that he was not going to be using Hinge anymore until he, like, saw where it went with us. He said all that on our first date.
That's
to me,
crazy.
in person.
You know what we call that?
Love bombing.
Yep.
Lesson learned. So, but I felt the same way.
Yeah.
So I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. And it's also hard to see that.
Yeah.
Because he's telling you everything that you would want to hear. I would want to hear that. I'd be like, oh, I do feel like we're very different though. Because I feel like if a guy says that to me right away, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
that's a little too much. But if I were to feel that way about him too, and like things are like vibing, yeah, that could work on me.
It normally takes a lot for me to catch feelings for someone. And a lot of times it takes a long time. And this was like just the fastest thing I've ever like gotten into ever. So if I was not into a guy and he was saying these things to me, I would have been like, whoa, you're crazy. Slow down. But I genuinely was feeling the same way, which was like crazy in itself. So anyways, usually things that start that fast end that fast. And I knew that. And I remember that being a concern in my head. But I was like, I don't know. I just went with it. So I was supposed to go out with that other guy. And the liar had asked me like what I was doing that night. He said something like, oh, are you having like a girls' night? And I was like, no, I'm actually supposed to go on a date. But like, I know we've only been on one date, but I wanted to like see how you felt about it. Like, I don't know. And he basically was like, I mean, I obviously like don't want you to go on dates with other people because I like you, but like I'm not going to tell you you can't. We've been on one date.
I think it would have been crazy for him to be like, no.
Yeah, he was like super normal and cool about it. But at that point, I knew that like he didn't love the idea, and I liked him so much that I was like, you know what? I don't even want to make him uncomfortable, so I'm not going to go. So I didn't go, and I told him that, and then we went out instead, and we lived an hour away from each other. So we met in the middle, and we went to this like sports bar type bar and had drinks and sat and talked. We were sitting so close to each other. Like it was insane. I can't even put into words what it felt like. And then we were there forever. And then we were like, okay, we got to go. They're like closing. This was it was like a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And then we like walked all down this neighborhood. He gave me his jacket to wear. Neither one of us wanted the night to end, but we both knew we needed to go home. We sat in my car and talked for like 2 hours. I'm pretty sure I told you I'd be home at a decent time.
Yeah.
I don't think I got home till like midnight.
No, I was asleep.
Yeah. It was crazy. And I remember we had a Ring camera, and I remember getting home and like you can see me like all giddy walking in the door. Like I legitimately would leave our dates like giddy, like smiling the whole way home. It's actually so embarrassing, but that's how it was.
No, it's not though.
It was very exciting. And I was just, also on our second date while we're sitting in the car, this man looks me dead in the eyes and says, I'm falling for you.
On date 2.
On date 2. And it didn't freak me out because I was like, oh my God, me too. Oh, this is embarrassing. I wish you guys could like be in my skin so you could like feel what I felt. It was crazy. There was just a lot of chemistry. You know what? You guys are lying if you say that you've never felt that way that soon. You're lying.
Continue on. It's not that embarrassing. Not when you feel that way.
So everything.
You're made to feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
We were texting all day, every day. We were FaceTiming all the time. I was like meeting his coworkers on FaceTime. Mm-hmm. We were spending a lot of time together. Like,
weren't you meeting his friends?
Oh yeah, I met his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not all of his friends, but like I met a few of his friends. We would like go out to dinner with his friends. And there was one night where I was at his place and I was having really bad anxiety. There's a lot of stuff that happened that like I'm not going to share that day. Nothing crazy, but like little things that if I wasn't feeling so anxious already would not have been a big deal. But I was feeling so anxious, and then he was doing these little things that were like making me feel more anxious. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how to explain it, but then we kind of had a little bit of like a tiff that night, and I was upset. It was nothing crazy. Like, he didn't do anything wrong actually in this scenario. I was just like reading into things and overthinking and like panicking. And I was upset, and he knew I was upset, like not crying upset, but like annoyed, frustrated. And he just like went to bed, and I could not fall asleep because my mind was going a million miles per hour. And when I'm feeling anxious like that, what I like to do is clean. Well, I was at his house.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to clean? And I was like, oh, I have to leave early in the morning. All my stuff is in the living room. I'll just start like packing and organizing. So I like try to quietly sneak out of the room because I knew if he woke up, he would be like, this bitch is crazy.
Yeah.
And I did not want that. But I
don't think he would have. But
so he wakes up and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just going to go like clean like back. And I said, I'm not leaving. Like, I just needed to like do something. And he was like, are you leaving? And I was like, no, I'm not leaving. I just said that. So I go out and I'm like packing my stuff, and eventually he comes out and he's just standing there. And I'm like, it's fine. Like everything's fine.
Like, go back to
just
bed.
feeling anxious.
Yeah.
I just needed to do something.
You just standing there is making me more anxious.
Yes.
Go back to sleep.
It was like, honestly, it was awkward. Like it was really awkward.
Yeah.
And he's like
I'm
half
sure
asleep.
it was awkward.
Yeah. And then eventually he's like, just come back to bed. So I was like, okay. Well, I finished what I was doing
Yeah.
and then I went back to bed, and like he fell right asleep again. And it was like a few things happened that night that were just frustrating for me, and he wasn't really listening or correcting them. There was a lot of like, okay, I'll do this at this time, or I'll promises that he didn't keep. And I'm not saying
consistent theme that you'll find throughout these stories is that he says a lot of things, but he didn't do a lot of things.
Yes. And I'm not saying that he would sit there and be like, I promise I'm going to do this. But he'd be like, okay, I'll set an alarm for this time and we can go do this. Oh, my alarm didn't go off. Oh, I forgot to set an alarm. Like there was always some sort of reason.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I think a lot of the time it was a mistake. But I think that you make those mistakes when you don't really care.
Yeah.
You know?
And when it's over and over and over again. Like one time, okay, like whatever.
Yeah.
You'll get over it. But when it's multiple times and there's like a pattern, it's like, okay, like do you even care?
Yeah. So there's two other characters in this story before we get too far into it that are going to come up later. And they are Mooney, who is one of my good friends. And we're going to call this girl Badge Bunny because she calls herself Badge Bunny. So there's Mooney and Badge Bunny. They're going to come up later. So that night, or the next morning with the liar, he looked me in my eyes and was like, listen, everything is fine. Everything is good on my part. Like there's nothing wrong. Don't overthink this. Like it's not a thing. Like we're good. I promise. And I was like, okay. And I drove home and I knew.
You were
I was
upset
like,
when you got home.
Yeah. I was like, I know he's telling me that everything's okay, but like he hasn't texted me. He always, within 5 minutes of me leaving his place or a date or anything, he would text me. Like this man,
Which, again, I think from the outside perspective, sounds so small.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you get it, you get it. Like
Yes.
there's a change in what he was doing, and you like immediately just feel the vibe switch.
Yes.
You immediately feel like in your gut that there's something else.
It's nothing to do with I'm mad because he didn't text me.
Yeah.
I don't care if he texts me or not. It was not about that. But when you do something so consistently and then you stop doing things, especially after a night like that, and then you're going to tell me everything's okay, I just knew it wasn't. And I didn't call him out for it. I wasn't mad at him for it, but like I knew something was off. Intuition, whatever you want to call it.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Like
the girls who get it, get it.
Yeah.
So I tried to just go about my life. I was definitely upset, but I was like, okay, I'm going to just pull back now because he's pulling back. And then I bought us tickets to a Bengals game in Arizona while on FaceTime with him. And he said, yeah, you get the tickets. I'll get us a hotel. Like, this will be fun, blah, blah, blah. And I'm buying these tickets like 2 weeks before the game, literally.
Yeah.
And so we planned that.
And it's not like they were cheap either.
No, they weren't. Let's say this was a Monday. We're on FaceTime on Monday. I buy the tickets. He says, yep, I'm in. I'll take care of the hotel. Perfect. Done deal. Okay. Tuesday comes around. Tuesday morning, I'm still at the point where it feels like I'm grasping at straws. Like, I know we just planned that date, but that date has now become like, okay, I know that we're going to at least make it until this day because we have this plan.
Yeah.
And that's when you know a relationship is failing.
Well, yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah. So Tuesday, he was going to meet up with his family. So I wasn't expecting to hear from him much, even though every time he was with his family, he would text me the whole time. And I would be like, hey, like, go spend time with your family. Don't worry. And he'd be like, no, like, I want to talk to you. I just might be slower at texting, whatever. This day, I did not hear from him for 6 hours. 6 hours. But
when you guys are texting daily and consistently throughout the whole day.
Yes. Every day.
I wanted to say that for everyone listening so they understand, because it's like, I won't text someone back for 6 hours, but it's not because of a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's in the whole grand scheme of things, 6 hours. Okay, people are busy.
Yeah. For context, neighbor boy and I think now we talk every day probably, but like for like a few text messages and then that's it. It's like it's not. I don't need to talk to you 24/7.
I don't even talk to my family every day. Like,
yeah. Yeah. So it was just a very big change. Again, wasn't mad at him, but I knew something was off. And so then I get a text.
Again, words, actions.
Right. Then I get a text. I also had sent him something that day that like you don't not respond to right away.
Yeah.
So then I get a text saying that he's like drunk or something. And I was like, you're getting
with your family.
Lunch with your parents. What do you mean you're drunk? Like, I didn't know you guys were drinking like that. And then like another 2 hours go by and he responds and is like, oh, yeah, I met up with my friend and we went to this bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, A, we had talked about potentially hanging out tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you telling me that.
B, I know that you've been on your phone because you had to text your friend to make these plans, text and coordinate where and when you were meeting. Like that, I know you were communicating with your friend, but you couldn't text me back like after what I sent you. Like this is an important thing to respond to.
Yeah.
So I at that point was pissed, and I actually was going to get dinner with a friend from high school, my friend Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't seen her in years, and this is all happening while I'm like planning things with Hope. So eventually I like called him, doesn't answer. And then like 2 hours later texts me and says like, oh, and I had texted him and said like, please call me like right now. Cause at this point I'm pissed. I don't know what's going on. He was definitely coming over the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about maybe him just coming over that night.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, I knew he needed to be up early to come over. Like we had plans. So I'm pissed off. He's not answering me. He's taking hours to respond in between texts, which is very out of character, even when he's out and drinking. And then he says something like, oh, sorry, I can't talk. It's loud in the bar. And I remember being like, so step the fuck outside.
Because you asked him to call you.
Yes. I was like at the point where I was pissed off and he knew. He had to have known. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was bad. Yeah. And he couldn't step outside for 2 seconds to call me back. Like, come on. What are you actually doing? I still to this day, he says he was out with that guy at the bar, but I truly don't know. I have no idea.
Who knows?
So the next day, he finally texts me and basically like, I told him that I was not okay with anything that he did the night before. And he's like, I totally agree with you. Like, I understand, blah, blah, blah. And it just felt weird. Like, he wasn't really defending himself. He wasn't really like, it felt like a, you're right. And I think I need to go kind of a text.
Yeah.
But he didn't really say that. I don't know. I just got, again, intuition. So keep in mind, I also made brownies the night before for us. I was like, oh, I'm going to treat him to some brownies. So he comes over, and my like theme with him was, I don't want to date someone who's not 100% sure about me. Not saying that you have to know you want to marry me, but I don't want to date you if you're not like 100% sure that you want to date me. Yeah. That you want to like commit to me.
I don't want someone to half-ass anything.
Yes. I don't want them to be like, I'm pretty sure, but I have some doubts. No, there should be no doubts.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. So I had told him that a lot. Like a lot. And so he comes over and we're chatting. And
but when you told him that, what did he say? Like, was he like, okay, or was he like, I am 100%?
I feel like it was a mix of both. Okay. I feel like at this point, though, he was just starting to like be like, yeah, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. So he comes over and we're chatting, and I'm telling him like how upset I was the night before and how like it's not okay. I'm not okay with that. And he says, I just keep thinking about how you told me if I'm not 100% sure, like you don't want it. And so immediately I'm like, oh, okay. That I think I said out loud, okay, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Got it. Like we're done, obviously. So yeah, he basically, long story short, tells me that he just isn't 100% sure and like we should stop dating and yada yada. And I was like very, very upset, but I didn't want to show that.
Of course not. Yeah.
And I also was like, you're right. I don't want to date someone who's not 100% sure. So like that sucks because you definitely acted and like made me very sure that you were 100% sure, but whatever. So I pretty much was just like, okay, like I get it. That's fine. And I definitely told him like that sucks because like I truly thought that I was going to like end up with you forever. Like I really believed we had something very special. But it is what it is. And he stayed for a long time. It was like an hour and a half, I think, of this. And I was like, I really wish that you would have told me this before I bought these tickets. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that's
and he's
right.
like, no, I brought money to give you. I brought money to give you. Guess who never got that money? Me. And of course, at the time, I turned it down. But later on, I brought it up again. And he's like, yeah, I have it. Like, I can still give it to you. And I just never did. Whatever. I don't want your money now, so it's fine. But yeah, so
I would have tracked him down.
I just remember when he was walking out the door, he was like, just so you know, like, I'm not going to be dating other girls and like doing all that right now.
Then what are you doing?
And I look at him and I said, well, I am. And I don't think he liked that.
Of course. Yeah.
And I also, this is kind of important in a minute, was like, well, do you want some brownies to go? Like I made us brownies. So I gave him brownies to go. And he's like, I'll text you when I get home. And I was like, you don't need to do that. Like, please don't do that. And he was like, well, I'll text you and let you know how the brownies are. And I was like, you don't need to text me. Like, we do not need to speak again.
Yeah.
He also made a point to say that he wanted to stay friends on social media. And I immediately deleted him from Snapchat because I was like, I do not need you on Snapchat. No. But I let us like stay Instagram friends. So I was like, whatever, it's fine. So he leaves and he did text me when he got home. He sent me like this long text apologizing and stuff. And I did not respond at all. And then there were 2 occasions after that where he would respond to an Instagram story. And the first one was a foster cat that I had died. And so he like responded asking if it was B, which is like, it was a kitten and B is like a full grown adult. So I'm not sure I don't know what kind of a question that was, but whatever. So we like chatted about that for like a hot sec and I would respond to him, but I was giving nothing. Yeah. I was being very indifferent. And then he messaged me one day and said like, the brownies were great, by the way. And he would always send sad faces and I'd be like, why are you sending me? What are you sad about? And
like,
then
you did this.
Yeah. And then one day he said, I miss talking with you. I hope you're doing well or something.
You did this.
And that's what I said. I said, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this was your decision, but I am doing well. Thanks. And
have a good one. Shove it up your ass.
He just liked it. And yeah, that happened. So after that, we did not speak. And I was like, he's for sure going to unfollow me on Instagram. Okay. But I didn't really think about it for a few days. I just was like, it's done. It is what it is. I go to a baseball game with Mooney as friends. Okay. Me and Mooney are just friends. And we go to this game and he's telling me a story about this girl, Badge Bunny, that was like, he like was kind of a thing with for a minute. He wanted to date her. She wasn't having it. They didn't talk. Now she wants to date him and he's not having it. So he's like telling me about it. And I'm like, oh, like maybe you should just tell her that you don't want to date her. I don't know. Yeah. And he's like, I have, whatever. That's not relevant to the story at all. I'm not kidding. I'm like giving him advice for that situation. He's telling me about it. He shows me your Instagram. I don't think anything of it. That night or the next night, we were sitting on the couch and I was telling her about The Liar and like our last conversation that we had. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he unfollowed me on Instagram yet because I kind of shut him down in that last conversation. So I go to his page and I go to following and I see my name and I see Badge Bunny. And I'm like, how does The Liar know Badge Bunny? Like, is that the same Badge Bunny that Mooney was just showing me? So I text Mooney and I said, hey, I was like, is this Badge Bunny? And he's like, yeah. And I go, ask her how she knows The Liar. Okay. I get a screenshot of a text saying that they had dated for like a month and it was the month of June, I think June or July, which was the same month that I was dating him. Like the first month of my time with him, where he from day one said he had not gone out with anyone else and was not going to, and was only dating me, like told his mom about me, met his friends, posted me on his Instagram story, okay, publicly, like, phew, mind blown. There was another part of that text that was even crazier that I'm not going to share.
Yeah.
But insane information to receive, okay? So I called this girl and we talk on the phone for 45 minutes. And the liar was telling her all of the same things that he was telling me. They also talked about engagement rings on their first date. They talked about having kids. They talked about getting married, like the same conversations that I was having with him at the same time. And there would be so many times where like we pulled out receipts. She was like, oh, there was one night where he like ghosted me all night. I never heard from him. And then the next day he said that he had work late and then passed out, like something like that. No, I was with him that night. I was with him. He was like full on lying to her and gaslighting her. And probably doing the same thing to me. I don't remember there being a night where he disappeared except for that night right before he ended things. But she was not with him that night after talking with her. So he maybe was with his friend. There maybe is another girl. Who knows? Nobody knows. So yeah, so that's how I found out about all of that. And I remember at the time being like, yeah, like we got him. And then the reality set in and I was like, oh my God, A, I've never felt more dumb in my life. I feel so stupid. B, I'm heartbroken. How could someone do this to anyone? But I went into this with the most pure intentions. Like I truly, truly thought this was my future. And he knew that and like totally took advantage. I felt very vulnerable. I felt like an idiot. I felt like a shell. Like it was a horrible feeling. And the other part of the text that is even crazier, like contributed a lot to this feeling.
You just don't do that to someone.
Yeah. So yeah, it was bad. And basically after that, I called him and we talked and he like admitted to everything that was in that text, at least. And was very apologetic on the phone, but like wouldn't even talk. Like he was just like, he would just be like, and be silent for so long. And I'd be like,
he got caught. He got caught.
Yeah.
And he did not think that he would ever get caught.
No.
So he was shocked that you found out. Because it was like, how the hell?
And keep in mind, we are not even together at this point. Like this was after he had ended things that I found all this out. And I can't even imagine if I would have found out when I was still dating him. I can't even imagine what that would have felt like. So at least we were already like not together. But I found all of that out. There were like a lot of things I had to do because of that. Like it just was like it was a very hard time for me. And obviously everybody in my life hated him. And I was heartbroken. So also in the time that we'd been broken up or not talking, whatever, I started seeing Neighbor Boy. I got back on Hinge. I reached out to him and we started going on dates. So all of this is going on while I'm dating Neighbor Boy. Luckily, we both were like pretty casual about it. So like, I don't think it really mattered. But anyways, so yeah, found all that out. Long story short, no, it's definitely not a long story short.
It's quite the opposite, actually. Long story long.
There's so many details. So basically, he ends up convincing me to let him come over and apologize in person. My thought process was gas prices are crazy high right now, and this is an hour drive. So I don't hate the idea of him having to drive here and back and pay for all that gas.
I also wasn't home.
Yeah, Kristen was at work. So
not that that was a contributing factor for you, but it definitely helped.
Yeah, he was not coming over if Kristen was home. There was no way. But I did tell her about it. I was like, he's coming over. Like, I'll text you as soon as he leaves. It was like very serious stuff. He comes over and he walked in and he was trembling. And for 2 hours sat on my couch and apologized. And it was a very good apology. I was very convinced. Okay. And this is where everybody's going to be like, you're a fucking idiot. You're the dumbest bitch I've ever seen in my life. And I get it. Okay. I do. But until you're in my shoes and you feel the feelings that I felt and you believe in second chances the way I do, like I truly, truly believe in my core that everybody is good. And when they're bad, it's because they're going through something or like, I don't know. I really saw so much good in him. I really did.
Too much.
Way too much. So I said to him, I mean, he at this point was saying the reason I ended it was because the other part of that text, and whatever, it's a whole nother story. And he's like, I didn't really want to end it. As soon as I walked out of that door, I texted my friend, told him I made a mistake. He did actually do that. And he showed me the text with the timestamps.
Well, yeah,
everything.
he did make a mistake.
And well, a lot of them.
Yeah, multiple.
So I was like, okay, I'm not just going to give you another chance. I'm not just going to date you again and be like, okay, yeah, let's try again. Absolutely not. I was heartbroken. I did not trust him at all. And the last thing I want is a relationship where I don't trust the person. So I said, if you really are 1,000% sure that you want to try this again and you want me back that bad, you're going to have to call my mom and talk to my mom. You're going to have to talk to my roommate, which is even scarier.
Wait. Speaking of talking to your mom, prior when you guys were dating,
oh my God,
Kelsey's mom was visiting us. Okay, your mom lives in Indiana.
She visits once or twice a year. If
her
I'm
mother.
Lucky.
Okay,
and not because she's a bad mom, just because there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But her mother is in town, and Kelsey makes these brunch plans and invites him. And says, we're going to brunch. I want you to meet my mother. Like, please come. And he was like, I will be there.
Yeah. It was his birthday weekend.
No.
Just, this is important.
Okay.
It was his birthday weekend. And his friends had already planned on taking him out the night before. So,
which is fine.
Yes.
We went to brunch at like 11:30, I feel like.
It was 10 because my mom had a flight.
Oh,
but
okay.
Anyways,
close enough.
I told him, I know this is last minute, but like we're doing this in a few days. I know you're going out the night before, so if you want to come, you can. You don't have to. It's not like it's fine. And I said, but just let me know.
Yeah.
Like that night, if you're gonna make it or not.
Yeah.
Or at the very least in the morning. Just let me know. It doesn't matter either way what you do. Just let me know. And he said, I will be there. I will be there. And I was like, okay. So I thought, because he said he would be there, that he would be there. Okay. Brunch
Crazy.
Brunch is at.
Insane of you.
I know. What was I thinking? Never again. Never again.
I'm going to believe what you say to me?
That's
crazy.
I don't know what I was thinking with that one. So brunch was at 10 and I get a text from him at 11 as we're walking back to the car that says, I am so sorry, Kelsey. And me being the perfect angel that I am. Keep in mind, this was early on. So far, no mistakes had been made that I knew of. I said, I'm very upset. Like, that's crazy that you did that. My options are to end it and never talk to you again, or tell you that it's not okay and have that conversation and then choose to move forward. And I was like, because of like the feelings that we have and like how good I think this can be, I'm going to move forward. But like, that is not okay. Like, you have to communicate, blah, blah, blah. And I told him the only reason I'm even saying this to you is because your very first thing that you said was sorry. If you would have texted me good morning or anything other than I'm sorry, it would have been the end. I would have been done. So
anyways.
Okay. Yeah. So that was when we were together. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're at the point where I'm deciding to give him a second chance in the sense that he can try to win me back. He's going to have to do all these really hard things. And even if he does those things, I cannot promise him that it's going to work, because if I don't trust you, I'm not going to date you.
Right.
So it was all about like, will I be able to trust this guy again? Is he going to put in the work to do that? Like, it was very much up in the air and I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was willing to like see him out. But I said, I will be dating other people the whole time. I will not commit to you. There were a few things that I was like, I will not do this. I will not do this. Like, these are my boundaries for this situation. And he agreed to all of them and was doing a pretty good job for a while. And then I don't really know what happened. We kind of fell off, and I was getting my hair done really close to his house. And I truly don't remember like what led up to this and what happened, but he basically ended it and said like he was just heartbroken over his ex and like
wow,
was damaged and like couldn't give me his all, something like that. And I said, okay, that's fine, because I'm going to come over and we're going to talk in person. We can end it in person if that's really what we're doing. But like, I did not just go through all of this for you to end it over a text, because keep in mind, this is also like this whole time I was in such a bad place mentally because I was so torn between giving him a second chance and realizing that he wasn't good for me and that all my friends and family hated him. Like, it was so much work to like get it to work and to get my friends to like him. It was horrible. So for that to end over a text, I was like, no. So I stopped by his house. He cries. Okay. He's crying. I'm crying. And then I'm just feeling sorry for him. I just felt sorry for him. And all I wanted was for him to be happy. Like, I was like, I don't want you to be feeling this pain that you're feeling from your ex. Like, I hate that you dragged me into this mess. And like, I hate everything that you did to me. But like, I still don't want you to be miserable. Like, I know that feeling and it sucks. So
you're so nice.
So I pretty much told him, like, I think we should just not talk. And then by the end of that conversation, he's telling me, like, he does want to make it work, but he needs to start going to therapy and, like, wants to keep talking, but wants to go to therapy, and he's going to work on it. And now I'm in this battle of, like, do I just stop talking to him and make him figure it out first? Or do I, like, not abandon him, which is what I felt like I would have been doing, and, like, stick with him while he works it out? Like, I just didn't know what to do. And so I left saying, like, let's just take a few days to not speak and, like, think about it, like, really think about what we want, and then we'll go from there. But he was going to Scottsdale that weekend with his friends. So he, of course, is texting me the next day and texts me every day, but, like, very sparingly. And then he's in Scottsdale. He made a whole big deal about how he's not going to mess around in Scottsdale. He's not going to meet anyone, blah, blah, blah. He's only focused on me while he tries to get over his ex. It sounds so crazy. It is crazy. This is so embarrassing.
You're fine.
I'm so glad I can laugh about this now because this is insane.
Dude, okay, you have to understand how everyone felt around you now that you realize that.
I always got it, but like he goes to Scottsdale, and then while he's in Scottsdale and telling me he's not going to mess around with anyone and he wants to talk to me the whole time, the next day while he's there for a full day, barely hear from him. Like, barely. And I that day went and decided to look at new Jeeps. Okay. And this was the same day. As soon as I didn't hear from him, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, I have to end this. I'm so done feeling like this. I'm miserable. Everyone around me is miserable. Like, I have to end it now. So I knew I was going to end it. I knew. And so then I'm at the Jeep dealership. I bought a brand new Jeep. I leased it way before my lease was up.
But you didn't know that until we were there.
I didn't know until we were there.
Still moved forward.
They told me, they were like, you still have another 6 or 8 months or whatever it was. And I was like, well, what are my options? And then I like blacked out. I was so preoccupied that like I didn't negotiate price.
No, I remember sitting there and I was like, oh, she's taking it. Oh, we're moving forward. We're leaving in a new car today. Keep in mind, we drove up, like, got McDonald's on our way, like, right before we got to the dealership, because we were like, well, it doesn't matter because we're going to be driving away in this car. We're just looking.
I didn't clean it out or anything.
No, nothing. No preparation was made. And they took her car smelling like McDonald's.
They even went at one point to like do something in the car. Inspect it. They come back and they tell me, your car smells like McDonald's. And I was like, I know. I was so afraid that was going to happen. We just ate French fries like on our way here because we didn't know this was going to happen. So yeah, I bought this Jeep and we drove away in it. Never saw Bev again. Oh yeah, sorry.
That's
leased
important.
it. I did lease it. But it was a pretty big down payment.
I was going to say, she put a pretty penny down.
And did not negotiate at all.
I remember sitting there and I was just like, what is going on right now?
I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
I'm totally gone. Blacked out. Okay. So I leave in a new Jeep and he texted me that night or the next morning that he was at the airport. And I didn't respond because I was like, well, I'm going to end it. So I don't really care where you are. And then I was like, okay, when he gets here, we're going to go to lunch when he gets back. And then I'll like do it at lunch. I'll do it in person. I'll at least have the decency for whatever reason to do that. Okay. Well, then Badge Bunny texts me and it's a screenshot of the liar's new Bumble profile. Like says new here. Oh, welcome. So then I was like, well, that is the confirmation that I needed, I guess. And I told her, I was like, I was already literally going to end it this week, but like, thank you. Now I'm like, for sure, that's what I'm going to do. So then I texted him that night and I was like, hey, can you FaceTime me? And he's like, oh, now you want to talk? Like, you didn't talk to me all day. Okay. Hypocrite. Okay.
He said that?
Yep. So I was like, I said, yeah, sorry, I was busy, but yeah, let's FaceTime. So we FaceTime. I'm like, how was your trip? Blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, well, I was going to like end things and like maybe keep the door unlocked. If you like got the help that you needed and then you wanted to try again. But then I was sent your Bumble profile. So like doors locked, closed, bye, forever. And he was like, oh, well, like me and my buddies just wanted to find a group of like a bachelorette party to hang out with.
Creepy.
I was like, why?
Ew.
Why? For what?
That's so creepy.
Can't you literally just go to a bar and find them? They're literally everywhere.
Right.
That was my first thing. Second, well, why didn't your friend download it? Because he's single and like not actively trying to win someone back. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, well, he already had it.
Okay.
Well,
it updates
perfect
in your location.
Exactly. Perfect. He already has it. So you can just, it's right there at your fingertips. No need for you to download it. Crazy. You're going to get the same people. Okay. Yep. So that was his reasoning. Made sense. Okay.
Men and their minds.
Then he doubles down because then he says, well, I really only got it for like when we were in Scottsdale.
That makes it so much better.
Okay. So when you're out of town, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's just when you're here that you have to be loyal to me. Mm-hmm. That's it. Boys trips, they don't count. Haven't you guys heard? Come on. They don't count. So I said, okay. Well, bye.
Yeah, like thank you for the confirmation.
And that was it. I was like dumbfounded. Like that did not just happen. Oh. We have never seen each other since.
And that's the story.
And that's all. That's the story of the liar. Thanks for watching.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.